Please explain, Mr. Hawker. Wait, what is it? I'm gonna do one, I think. I will let him talk.
The person in question is Mr. Franz Richter himself, the leader of the Reformists. We have enough information to infer that he has ties with Arcasia.
Yeah, well, that could be true, yeah, because that is the United States.
Yes. Arcasia is aggressively growing their influence around the world. Now they're coming up with these ridiculous demands for a new constitution amidst a chaotic period in Sordland. All the pieces seem to fit perfectly. That is why the Supreme Court will be doing what it takes to stop these reforms and preserve the Constitution. How would you know that Mr. Richter has ties to Arcasia? Mr. Galdi, we all know that he has been in Arcasia many times because it is well documented, but what would you think if he has been making hidden flights to the country?
1. I need to know this. Please explain. Or 2. He was hiding his flights to Arcasia. 3. Another conspiracy theory. Let him explain.
He has been spotted in a hotel in Arcasia last year where they held a conference on economic development and volatile. Right around the time he started to influence the masses in believing that our Constitution is the reason for everything bad.
Wow.
Interesting. His trip was not documented, nor was he an official guest. We believe he had a meeting with President Walker behind closed doors. It's a very American name. Dwight Walker. Oh yeah, that's extremely American. I can't think of anything more American. Dwight Walker. I also have a couple more photos of him that were taken in Arcasia in different cities. One is from a couple months back. Again, none of it is documented. He also attended another event in Lesbia last week. The Arcasian Minister of Foreign Affairs was there too.
How did you find out about this? 2. If this is true, this is big. 3. How can any of these be undocumented? Let's do 1. How did you find this out?
Many Soulists were already following his leads for quite some time, Mr. President. I cannot give away their identities, but I can give you the evidence.
He handed me a small file. It contained official documents from the Swedish border guard with highlighted dates that showed no trace of Franz Richter's name. There were clear photos of him that were taken in the conference in Arcasia, as well as remarks by lesbian and Arcasian citizens who claim to have seen him with Arcasian businessmen around the same dates. There was also an official transcript of one of his speeches where he claimed to be in Benfi on the dates of the conference in Arcasia where he was spotted. Lucian skimmed through the documents with skepticism, which slowly turned into surprise.
These seem to be real. Of course they are real, Mr. Galdi. These seem to suggest that Arcasia is behind the reformists. Their demands will only benefit Arcasia. They want us to have a weaker administration while we face all these threats. This is clearly a plot against Sordland. I bet Rumburg is part of their plan too. This cannot be a coincidence that they are weaponizing our minorities against us around the same time.
We are getting infiltrated and attacked from all sides of the world.
Bad things are happening. Bad things. Now you understand the reasons of our current stance and also our suspicions about your advisors, and who clearly have not given you this vital information.
Lucian gave him a sharp look.
We appreciate the information, Mr. Hawker, but I advise against jumping to conclusions right away. We still need to check the information. There's not much to think or check. This is clearly an emergency. In such cases, the Constitution gives the President the right to use his emergency powers. If we work together, you can be sure that the Supreme Court will not block your declaration of emergency.
1. Let's talk about how we can work together. 2. You want me to declare an emergency? 3. I'm still too skeptical about these, Mr. Hawker. I will have to decline. Well, let's do the question mark.
Yeah. Of course. We cannot wait for the processes of the Assembly to take care of these issues. You must exercise your presidential powers for a fast and effective solution, which means you might need to suspend parts of the Constitution to give more authority to our security forces to deal with these issues. We must officially investigate Mr. Richter as well.
Yeah, well, we can investigate. That's fine.
You can devise a strong security decree if you base it on the Articles 57, 58, which gives the president the right to suspend parts of the Constitution to deal with national security threats. You can directly bypass the Assembly in such a situation. The only thing you need is the Supreme Court to allow the emergency to be declared, and you have our word on that. Sir, I think that this is going a bit too far. We shouldn't escalate things so fast. Mr. President, why don't we talk in private, only two of us? We can devise a plan together. I know how we can use the Constitution to our advantage. It would be more effective if Mr. Galde and Mr. How do you say this?
Garachi, yeah.
Garachi leave the room before we discuss it. Sir, I advise against it.
Now, this is interesting. One, could you leave us alone? And then we are going to talk with him in one-on-one. Maybe he is suddenly going to bribe me and then I know enough. I mean, we can always talk one by one, right?
Yeah, you can always do that.
4. Regardless of the situation, I will be proceeding with the reforms. No, we are going to investigate this. 3. I'm sorry to say that we won't be cooperating. No, I like your idea, Mr. Hawker, but I'd rather plan it together. 1. Could you leave us alone? I think I still want to plan it together. If it's about making a plan, we should do it with all 3, I think.
Because, I mean, if this is true, this is very, very bad. It's a very bad thing.
Gonna plan together.
Glad to hear that we're on the same page, Mr. President, but I will have to insist on the private talk.
Oh, he's insisting now. Lucian?
Sir, I can leave. I am not here to block your cooperation with anyone. Then please do, Mr. Galde. Oh.
Lucian stood up as Orso gave him a smile. Heron paid his respects and left with Lucian, leaving me and Orso alone.
So, Mr. President, if you stop the Reform Committee meetings immediately, the real threat to you, we will manage the reformists together.
Oh, you're getting skips again.
I am? You want me to read it again?
Let's go to East. I think that worked best.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes you just cut out.
Fortunate. If you stop the Reform Committee meetings immediately and focus on the real threats, I will guarantee you we will manage the reformists together. You must eliminate these threats, both internal and external. An emergency act can help you do that. We cannot trust anyone in the administration either.
Ooh.
This is bad.
1. I agree, Sordland is in a crisis. 2. Tell me more about the legal details of an emergency act. 3. How can we fight against these threats with an emergency act? Ice go. Tell me more.
Economy is red. Communist red. According to Article 58, if public security and order are seriously disturbed or endangered within the Republic of Sordland, the President of Sordland may modify and suspend parts of the Constitution, subject to confirmation by the Supreme Court, to determine the validity of the declaration of a state of emergency.
1. Which part of the Constitution can we modify or suspend? 2. How can we effectively silence the opposition? 3. Can't the Assembly simply revoke it? 1.
This is kind of a gray area. The Constitution states that No state shall, in the case of national emergency, modify or suspend the rights of freedoms defined in Article 100 of the Constitution unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay.
If we want to give the police more authority, we might need to modify the rights of freedom too. But we are not under invasion. 3. Such imminent danger that can definitely be argued to be the case. We are not under invasion yet.
That is correct. However, the section where it states that actually invaded or in such imminent danger as we will not admit of delay can be up to interpretation. We are definitely under such imminent danger because of Rumburg. Not to mention United Cortana's support for a communist coup in Sordland, as well as Franz Richter's involvement with Arcasia, which is definitely connected to all of these problems. Of course, this is up to the Supreme Court to decide, so that is not a problem.
1. How can we effectively silence the opposition?
We may need increased surveillance on our political rivals to find out about their connections and plots. Bringing unlimited detention would allow you to arrest people as necessary, such as Mr. Richter.
1. What if the investigations cannot find anything incriminating? Yeah.
The information that I gave you can be enough, depending on what parts of the Constitution you'll modify in an emergency. Anything is possible, Mr. President. The Supreme Court will support your decisions.
1. Can't the Assembly simply revoke it?
According to the Constitution, only the President and the Grand National Assembly can revoke the emergency after it is declared. That is correct. However, as long as your party is in line, they will never have a majority to revoke it immediately, so no, they cannot simply revoke it.
Are we continuing?
It sounds like you're trying to become a dictatorship using emergency powers.
Yeah, but if all these accusations are true,
is there a path maybe we can take to further survey and figure out if these accusations are true?
That's the problem. I don't see that option. Now, the details. Let's talk about the details.
You must first justify the Emergency Act. We need to have at least one target that we can blame the conflicts on. They will be declared as a national security threat, and this would allow us to prosecute their members or people connected to them. There are obvious connections between the Blutish separatists and Rumburg, and the separatists have clear connections to the Workers' Party of Blutia. They should be declared a national security threat, and the party should be banned.
Wow.
This is...
These Blood separatists have no place in Sordland. They will not be tolerated. 2. They will be our targets. 3. I don't want to create problems with our Bloodish citizens. 4. There is not enough evidence to connect the separatists to the Workers' Party. Well, I'm gonna just click that one.
Come on, Mr. President. We all know what they stand for. Bloods will be Bloods. They all want to establish their own country in Bergia. But let's not forget about the socialists.
They all want... No. You cannot speak about one whole minority group. No.
Red Youth must also be our target. They are plotting a communist revolution in Sordland with clear funding from United Cortana, and now they took to the streets after the death of Bernard Circus. There are already clashes and protests on the streets which must be dealt with before it gets out of hand. You can also justify an action against the young swords. After all, they started all this mess with the commies, and now they killed a man right near the Maroon Palace. That can be considered a declaration of war against the state itself.
Red Youth must be targeted before they get too powerful to trigger a revolution. 2. Young swords executed an attack near the palace. They must pay for it. 3. Both organizations must be declared as national threats. 4. I need to think about this. 4.
I don't think there's much to think. But let's talk about how we can deal with them. We should eliminate the threats on our streets first. The police should have the authority to disperse crowds as necessary. We also have to keep the streets clean from the socialist thugs and bloatish separatists. We should give more authority to the police regarding their use of force. They should be able to stop and frisk as necessary, especially in bloatish neighborhoods. This is so bad.
We are not going to do this.
This is so bad.
Because then you become a dictator, really.
And the Bloods are going to revolt.
If people really want to be part of a communist party, then that is their right. It's up to us to change the situation so they will not join that party. By giving them water.
Yeah, and if you do this, the Bloods are going to get really, really mad. I mean, you're going to make people that really weren't upset. Like, they're not even going to be able to walk on the street without the police stopping them, which will make them upset and hate you. So...
Based on suspicion, that's the best one. Police should stop and frisk based on suspicion.
The police will also need permissions for increased surveillance against these organizations. They should be able to search properties without warrants, and wiretapping should be permissible beyond its current limits. They also need to be able to act swiftly. If a person is suspected of crimes against the national security of Sordland, the police should be able to detain them without trial. We cannot allow them proper trials anyway. Okay, this is awful.
It's too much.
It's too much. We are fighting against national security threats here. These are terrorists. We need extreme measures in extreme situations. And there are also the external threats we must face. Rumburg has acted hostile in the past, and now they are arming the Bloods. We must cut all ties with them. They need to be embargoed. Their citizens must be barred from entering Sordland. We must erase all of their influence in Sordland, weaken their trade, and give them a message.
Rumburg is our biggest enemy, we must react. 2. We shouldn't escalate the situation with Rumburg too fast. I want Rumburg to start the invasion.
You do? Okay.
I will not be the aggressor. I'm not gonna be the aggressor. They have to be the aggressor, so that the whole world can see that we are getting attacked. Oh, what is this? The Lord of Chaos? What the hell is that message? I'm not gonna escalate it too fast, because we don't have an economy. If you can win some time, that would be fantastic.
We don't have a lot of things.
You shouldn't escalate it.
They are the ones who are spitting on us. They already escalated the situation. And of course, we need to prepare our army in any case. They have a very powerful military, and they seem to have plans on our soil. Then there are the superpowers. Both are influencing our nation to be in their spheres. It seems Arcasia already brought Mr. Richter and possibly is behind all of this. And United Contana is funding Sordist communists against our state, but we cannot bow to the superpowers. Sordland must stand tall.
We can't go against the superpowers. That's true.
This is true. I know it is a serious issue, but their actions against our country is obvious. We simply cannot allow them to manipulate us.
I agree, but we cannot afford to sever all our ties with them. 2. We might need one of their support against the other.
This is all very bad. I don't like a lot of this.
2-1.
Yeah. You should think about it further.
Also look at the clock in the office and then outside the window.
Mr. President, I have taken too much of your time already. I will be reaching out again after you dissolve the Reform Committee and end the pursuits for reform.
What are we gonna do?
This is the crossroads.
And this is the whole thing about politics.
Mm-hmm.
We have proof that Mr. Richter, for the reformists, is working with Arcasia. But maybe it's not a too terrible thing to get closer connections to Arcasia, really.
I mean, it's protection.
We need protection from one of the superpowers. I'm not gonna promise it. We do not have a deal. We cannot become a dictator.
Was this all a joke to you?
No, Mr. Hawk, I just wanted to learn about your intentions. Yes. And now he told us everything, and we can use that information for ourselves. That is why you are a president. He looked at me with anger.
I see. Good luck with your reforms, Mr. President. You made a big mistake.
He quickly got off the couch and moved towards the door. Now, if he ends the talk like that, then I think I made the right decision, really. Don't welcome me, Mr. Hawker. Goodbye, Mr. Hawker. Just gonna be playing friendly. Goodbye. Bye. Oh.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. He left the room. Bye,
All
Mr.
right.
Orso and Hawker. How will this end, guys? How is this going to end?
Bye-bye.
Okay. Let's check the news, right? We have 2 unread newspapers. Hawker is in the Maroon Palace. He's been spotted. Yes, we had some talks. Clearly there must be something he wants out of this. Speculation that it has something to do with the reforms. Yeah. And the radical. The WPB protests Electoral bill. Growing discontent over the past electoral campaign finance bill that's excluded public funding for parties that aren't able to enter the Grand National Assembly has reached a boiling point when all Workers' Party of Bludia officials and members went out in protest around the country. Strong voices of support came from the Labour Union of Sordland and the People's Freedom and Justice Party, calling the bill unfair for most parties and an attack on the democratic principles. The new bill means that the WPB, Bludia Whirlarbeidpartij, lost half of their total party funding, and since they couldn't pass the high election threshold of 10% to enter the assembly, aren't eligible at all to receive any public election funding for the 1957 elections. The WPB leader said that their struggle for the workers of Sordland continues and that they are willing to explore other options to be able to present the hundreds of thousands of people that voted for them. For now, their struggle continues. President Rayne and the USP establishment are actively seeking to suppress the political representation in this country. Well, they have a point, but they are also supported by United Contana. Apparently, we are not sure yet.
Willing to explore their options, that's scary.
I remember this part. Hawker is a menace. Wait, the game creator followed you on Twitch? Oh, did he? Who is that? Is that Sergey? Yeah, I just see that Sergey followed the channel, so I guess that's the follower, so thank you.
Oh, good.
Alright, we are finally done with turn 2, guys, of chapter 1. And that took us 9 hours.
Yeah. How many chapters did Eternal say there were? 5?
I think there are 5.
5. Yeah.
Oh my god. Sergey, yeah. Okay, let's continue, I guess. Let's see what happens to our economy. Are we going to 1?
Maybe. I don't know.
We refuse the deal. Yeah. We are gonna do what we want. And thanks for your information about all these of Mr. Richter, what he did, and we're gonna use it for ourselves now. Oh, let's continue. Trials of Democracy. Yes, Esco. Oh, what's gonna happen?
Oh, we got a pop-up here.
We still have 2. We still have 2 economic development. Now let's check the news. Sordland today. School poisoning in Rebel. Principal of high school in Rebel. That is a settlement in Bloodlandia or whatever. Bergia, where 12 students died after eating a free meal laced with pesticide. Students aged between 15 and 17 died after eating a lunch of local dish of zabla, cooked at a school in a poverty-stricken city. Police have started the investigation to solve the mystery of how the pesticide ended up in their food. What?
That's awful. That is awful.
Oh, Orenham is saying, thanks to you I got the game and now I'm in the late part of chapter 2. I can tell everyone watching this it is a worthwhile purchase. Well, there you go. Best game to buy of the year for me. Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
That's a big one. Time for a woman to stand up.
Good.
Women are always under pressure. Discrimination, said Katharina Horten. The women's rally was held in Horsford yesterday. The Swedish League of Women is organizing a number of rallies across Sordland to bring the change Sordland desperately needs. It's time for Sordland to realize that we have to respect every individual, regardless of their sex, and strive to become an advanced civilization. Women have long been pushed to the corners of social and political life. Where is this change? A new campaign was started all over Sordland to establish a framework of women's rights. Okay. Minister of Education, Walda, and Minister of Assembly, Horten. Everybody's equal according to the Swedish Constitution, but there are no protections against discrimination, which only reinforce the inequality in practice, said Walda in a press conference. This movement must be supported by all Swedish women, as well as men. We need to bring change now, we can do it. And then the Economist, upcoming government budget changes. As the top economy experts in the country, we have been watching the upcoming changes to the government budget very closely. President Anton Rayne's first international economical challenge lies ahead, and we will see if he can prove his capabilities as leader who can think ahead. Just want more money.
Yes,
the potential ramifications of diverting the funding to certain governmental branches has always been a point of contention for any leader, and it is no different for this case. We will see if President Rayne can hold onto the promises he has given during the election campaign. Geopolitical. Van Horten blames Volksland for the missing fishing vessel. Oh my god, is there a war going on between these two in the north? Mr. Van Horten has made a statement denouncing Volksland for the missing vessel, hull number blah blah blah. Removal Coast Guards have rescued a crew member of the missing vessel. Through his statement, we had learned the ship's unfortunate end was none other than Volksland Navy. The biggest navy of this region.
Yeah, the region.
However, the Prime Minister has refused to disclose the surviving crew member due to fear of an assassination attempt for Volksland to cover up their hostility. I don't know if I can trust that statement, but we will see.
I don't know what to believe anymore. It's
no,
just
that's
lies
the whole
and
thing.
lies.
We don't know anything anymore. Okay, let's read the reports. Lack of hospitals. Overburdened and they are unable to respond to needs of the citizens, he complained about months-long waitlists for terminally ill patients. Yikes. What is happening in Sarna? Bloodish resistance in sanctuaries. 3 priests as 2 different Nurity sanctuaries. Nurity is a monotheistic religion, teaching that the only creator is the divine god and that Saint Dust, the divine messenger. Okay, go away.
It's basically Christianity, I guess.
The report came from an elderly man who wanted to pray in peace, but instead found himself invited to join the Bloodish Freedom Front by a state-sanctioned priest. Further incidents indicate that the Bloodish Freedom Front is pushing for a local recruitment drive at different sanctuaries across the region. Yikes. And in Ellery, we have young swords and NFV flags burned. Massive counter-protest against the Young Swords, the right-wing nationalists by a political known to be aligned with the Red Youth, resulted in many injuries and property damage. Subsequently, Young Swords and the National Front Party flags were burned, which caused tensions to escalate. Local police dispersed the protesters by sundown. And in Boren, communist books burned. They're just... they keep going on each other here.
Yes.
Targeting the Red Youth, the Workers' Party of Bloody, and the Communist Party of Sordland. Youth groups from the local party offices of the USP and NFP also joined in with the burning. Also, youth groups from our own party are joined in with the burning of the communist books.
Yes. Yes.
The fire department was dispatched and the protesters dispersed on their own. Wow. Let's go to Lackhaven. Recession hits the farmers again. Farming industry has taken another hit as a result of recession. There are reports that 60% of all wheat in Lackhaven are rotting in barns from lack of buyers. Well, trade. Farmers are requesting additional funds from the government to survive the year. We don't have any budget anymore.
We don't have any money. Are people starving? Or is it like the one problem we don't have?
Can I see these things?
Welfare, maybe?
Businesses are bailed out. Look at all these red things.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Lack of allies. I think maybe you should try to get allies. Because that kind of seems...
Yeah. I think we will let Mr. Richter go and we will do the reforms and that will make us closer to Arcadia, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that sounds like the best thing to do.
We can ally ourselves with the Americans.
Okay, let's go here. The barbecue.
Oh.
Because we have time for that, because nothing is happening in the world.
Yep, nothing's happening.
It was a Saturday afternoon, my first break from work in what felt like years. And the weather couldn't have been more perfect. Trying to keep my mind off the upheaval sparked by the circus assassination, I lit the backyard grill. Monica and Deanna were out shopping for craft supplies and I'd given the staff a day off. It was just myself and Frank at home. I wasn't sure how he felt about me at the moment, but I did know how he felt about barbecued ribs. Our cook had left some marinating in the refrigerator. Sure enough, as soon as Frank glimpsed to the grill and the meat, he stepped outside to join me. Well, look who's finally out of his room. You come to spend some quality time with your old man, have you?
Sure, if you can spare me a few minutes out of your busy schedule.
Children who talk back to their fathers don't get dinner. Fan these flames, will you? 2. Look, son, I am preoccupied with matters of national importance. 3. I'm sorry. I know I haven't been around very often lately, but I'm happy to see you now.
It's okay. I know you've got the most stressful job in the country, and you've got to feed your family on top of it all.
We both chuckled. I turned to tend to the fire.
Here, let me try.
He grabbed the fan and started quickly waving it over the coals. The fire roared to life. He turned to look at me with a grin on his face. He was expecting praise. Good job. Not bad, son, not bad. Don't act like you've done something special. Good job.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
It is in our utmost interest to fulfill our duties with precision. The grilling shall commence in exactly 1 minute and 32 seconds.
That was a spot-on impersonation of Lucian. We looked at each other for a second, then burst out laughing. I realized my throat was parched. There was a 6-pack of beer in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you bring us a couple of beers? Is he gonna drink too?
Maybe. I mean, is he old enough, though? I don't know what the drinking laws are in Sordland.
He is at the high school.
But he could be 18.
Bring a couple of beers. He looked at me in disbelief.
You mean I can? But Mom told me...
He stopped himself, quickly ran inside and returning with 2 beers. He cracked them open, clinked the bottles and gazed out at the city skyline. He can get a beer. After what we went through, who cares anymore?
I know.
For a moment, my thoughts flashed back to my childhood and my relationship with my own father. My father was a hard-working man, and always had our best interest in mind, or at least that's what he always said. But he had a temper, and would lash out at my mother in fights I could hear from my bedroom. By the time I was Frank's age, we seldom spoke. Now that I was the president, I was facing more stress than my father ever had. I would have to work hard not to take my frustrations out on my family.
Dad, can I ask you something?
Wait for him to think about what to say. What? We are family, you can ask everything.
It's just, I feel like there's so much you've been hiding from me about your past and what's going on right now. Like at dinner that night after the ball, you told me everything was under control, but it wasn't, was it? I know what happened in the 20s. We learned all about it in school. Now with the protests and the riots, is it going to be the same thing? Dad, is there going to be a civil war in Sordland?
1. I hope not. 2. No, I will never let that happen. 3. Say nothing and avoid this question. I'm just gonna say I hope not.
I hope.
He let out a sigh.
But what was it like back then? Uncle Peter said the two of you went through a lot. I'm not a kid anymore. You can tell me.
Before I could gather my thoughts, the familiar images started flashing before my eyes. Images of soldiers advancing towards me and my friends, weapons drawn, of people I knew, friends and neighbors, being dragged through streets and murdered in alleyways. And that little girl's face. Those were dark times.
It seems like it.
But you're a nearly grown man, let's talk about it. Frank leaned forward in his chair, his eyes wide. Tell Frank about the coup of 1927, tell Frank about the Civil War, or actually, never mind. No, we are not going to do it. Don't talk about the coup. He was barely older than you are now. Studying law at the Holsworth State University, I was a freshman, excited and young. I had just left the classroom to go back home as I heard the sound of multiple vehicles approaching the campus gates. As they got closer, I realized they were military camouflage tanks, carrying hundreds of soldiers. The same soldiers that were supposed to protect Sordland citizens pointed their guns at us. They immediately took control of the facilities. One of my friends asked what was going on, was arrested immediately. More people got angry and gathered in protest. Frankie kept listening, a shocked look on his face. Tell him about the soldiers beating you, or refrain from telling him the brutality. No, we are gonna say it.
Yeah, tell him everything.
I was there with the protesters as they declared martial law. We marched towards them, they threatened to use force, but we stood our ground, so they started beating anyone they saw, including me. The physical wounds took a few weeks to heal, but the mental scars have stayed with me to this day. I was lucky. I was still one of the lucky ones. Some of my friends were shot, many more were arrested. I can't forget the screams to this day. Frank leaned back in his chair, his shoulders slumped heavily. Tell Frank about the Civil War. Just like to tell him about the Civil War. It was right after I met your mother. We had both joined the same political debate group to push for change after the coup of 27. Eventually I became convinced I wasn't doing enough, so I joined the Red Youth. Tell Frank about the clash between Lutheran and Ricard. Then one night it happened. Two different factions in the army, one of them led by fascist General Lutheran and the other by socialist General Ricard, started fighting against each other. It was a bloodbath. Nowhere was safe. Frank shifted in the seat, visibly uncomfortable. So we organized a protest one day in support of Ricard. In our minds, he was the better of the two, and true socialist. Oh, are we gonna tell about the girl who got killed by the tank?
I don't know.
I don't think we have to.
He might have learned. I'm surprised he hasn't learned about this in school. Kind of seems. I don't know.
Oh, are we gonna tell it?
What does Twitch chat say?
Twitch chat, should we tell about the girl that got killed? In front of our eyes? Iceco saying go.
Go. Alright.
Okay. I'm gonna do it. Of Jutlander as well. I paused for a moment before continuing. It was horrible. They were waiting for us. Soldiers started beating and shooting at everyone, plowing their tanks into the crowd. Amid the chaos there was this girl. I never forgot her face. I tried to save her, but I couldn't reach her in time. Frank's face has grown pale. He turned his eyes away from me. That's enough for today.
It's okay. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked you about it. I know I don't understand how easy my life is sometimes. One more thing, though. I know that you joined Red Youth back then. Do you mind if I ask why?
Yes, I do mind. I don't want to talk about it, too. A communist revolution for Sordland was, and still, is the only way. I had to survive somehow in that environment, and I made a choice. Now that sounds like what it was. Frank raised his eyebrows. His curiosity still not satisfied, but sensing my reluctance to go on, he simply nodded.
Sorry for bombarding you with questions. I know I complain sometimes, but my problems are nothing compared to what you went through.
I need to listen to them no matter what they are. What problems? Well, you're damn right, your generation will never understand. Now, let's do one. Before Frank could say anything else, I heard the front door unlock. Deanna and Monica's voices and the sounds of rustling shopping bags filled the house.
Alright, I'll be upstairs until dinner.
Frank went in and dashed upstairs. I took a long sip from my beer, looking at the city and the now setting sun. I hope that talking to Frank about my past have been a right decision. Part of me felt as if some sort of burden had been lifted. But I had the same nightmares again that night. Yikes.
That's bad.
The news.